Okay, so welcome to the September 21st special meeting of the Human Services Board Advisory Board. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Thank you all for attending this evening. Staff, is the recording on?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, so we'll now take roll call for the record of board members present. Joanne Parsons. Okay, Joanne's
sorry, here.
Okay. Here. Monica
here.
Gonzalez. Okay, Monica Gonzalez. Monica's not here right now. Alfreda Lee.
Here.
Eleanor Owen O'Shea.
Here.
Melina Pin. Say it for me, Melina. Pinju.
It's the J silent, so it's Pinu.
Pinu. I'll get it next time.
It's all right.
For
I'm
real.
here.
Gloria Quinn. Gloria's not here. And Megan Kemmer.
Here.
Okay, so we've got 1, 2, check again, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so with 6 out of 7 voting members in attendance, we have a quorum. Okay, so now we're going to move to our 30-minute citizens comment period. Each speaker will be provided up to 3 minutes to speak. Staff, is anyone present in person, online, or by phone to speak during the citizen comment period?
So we have several attendees, and so we need to know from them if they are wanting to participate. They may just be here to observe. So if you can raise your hand, that'd be great. Let's make sure they can. I believe anyone will be able to raise their hand. And so okay, let me bring in Kathy Morris 1 second. Okay.
There she is.
Sorry, we're still getting used to our technology, I think. Oh, let me see if I can unmute her. I'm gonna go ahead and move her over just for a minute so that we can be sure she can talk. Hang on 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Kathy, you should be able to hit unmute and be able to talk. Other than that, I can promote you to panelist and let's see if that works. Sorry, y'all. So Irma, are you able to promote her to panelist? Because I'm not, for some reason, it's not working for me.
Yes.
Even though I have the.
All right, I'm going to reclaim the host. All right, so first I'm going to ask to unmute. But
And yeah, I was doing that, but
I have just promoted Miss Kathy to panelist.
okay, good.
For the ones that have been moved from panelists or from, there it goes.
Okay, maybe it just took a minute.
Morris, you are now a panelist. You have 3 minutes to speak. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, I guess, why don't we move on? And then hopefully
Okay, it looks like she might have
Oh,
tech
here she's.
problems that's why she's in there twice.
Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Everybody, I went to settings and changed the setting for Zoom, so you should be able to hear me.
Great.
Can you see me?
We're not able to see you.
Well, I'm sorry. That's not something you want to miss. Ha, ha, ha. At the end of the day. But I want to thank all of you for serving on this Social Services Commission. I know from my 50 years of experience with social services in San Marcos, how vital it is. And I especially appreciate your ability to discern the needs of the community, because as we have moved through COVID, they are greater than I think any of us ever anticipated. With that being said, I am in support tonight, especially of the Family Justice Center and our ongoing program that you have seen fit to fund in the past for our clients. Beyond that, I am in favor of any social service assistance you can provide to local area social service agencies, because they need it desperately. So to sum it up, I thank you, I encourage you, and I appreciate your service.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have other attendees, and we'd be happy to hear from you in this comment period. Okay, and then so hearing none, let's continue the meeting. Thank you very much. Mary, you're muted.
I was saying a lot too.
Now we
Okay.
could tell.
So we're going to consider approval of by motion of the minutes for November the 10th, 2020, August 31st, 2021, and September the 7th, 2021. Did everyone receive copies of those minutes? Did all the board members receive copies? Everybody got it? Yes, okay, great. All right, so do I have a motion to approve all of the minutes? We can go, let's just do it one by one. November the 10th, 2020, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, now the minutes for August the 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve.
Okay, I hear a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And now the minutes for September the 7th, 2021.
I motion to approve.
I hear a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so- Well,
I
now,
think you can just go ahead and vote on all of them
Move
if
into
you
them?
want, either way, but you can, yeah, you'll need to vote.
okay, so do you want to do them all? We just did the motions. Do you want to do a final vote on all of them?
Yeah, so then the next question would be, does the board have any discussion or corrections regarding the minutes? And since you have motions and seconds for each one, y'all could just,
We're
like, if
good.
anybody has corrections on any, bring it up now. And then after that, have the vote, all in favor, blah, blah, blah.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, anything you want to add, take away? Okay. All right, we're now on our discussion among the board members on programs. I'm sorry, I think I jumped ahead. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to receive a 5-minute presentation by the following applicant agencies for each program for which an agency has applied for human services grant funding. Each presentation will be followed by a 5-minute question and answer session between board members and the agencies regarding the program on our application. 5 agencies that I have listed here. Or we'll hear first from the Bobcat Pride Scholarship Fund Program, Jeremy O. Torres Emergency Stabilization Fund. Are the presenters present?
Sorry, trying to get off mute. I am.
Okay. And then second, we'll hear from Hayes County Child Protective Service Program Child Protective Board. Is the presenter present?
We are here.
And third, we'll hear from Nosotros La Gente. Is the presenter present? Oh, it's a Viva Zapatos Shoe Drive.
Yes.
And
I'm here.
then, okay. And then we'll hear from Family Justice Center Program Therapeutic Educational Library. Is the presenter present?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then last, we'll hear from Minorities of Equality and Economy, Education, Liberty and Justice Program, Iron Sharpens Iron. Is the presenter present? Okay. Okay, Carol will move the agency representatives over from attendees to panelists, enabling them to speak. So the first speaker will be Bobcat Pride Scholarship Fund. Jeremy O. Torres Emergency Stabilization Fund.
Good evening. My name is Heather Idella. I am the Executive Director of BPSF and the Jeremy O. Torres Emergency Stabilization Fund. I want to thank the Human Services Advisory Board for taking the time to read our application and hear kind of our presentation this evening. Our organization has been a 501c3 nonprofit for 10 years. But the first 8 of those years, our primary focus was supporting Texas state lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, asexual, intersex, and pansexual students. In the past 2 years, as our executive board shifted, we re-envisioned our mission, and we have expanded our support to any 18 to 25-year-old queer identified individuals living in the greater San Marcos area. So while that still captures some students, we no longer serve just students enrolled at Texas State students, and really have been able to capture and support a greater portion of our queer population living in San Marcos in the greater area. The reason why we do this is because this is an underserved population that still faces high levels of discrimination when it comes from not having equal protection in employment or housing. And so we know that these emerging adults are at greater risk when they lose support from family or when unforeseen circumstances interrupt their ability to financially support themselves. So our qualification is that they have faced an unforeseen financial barrier. Often what we have found since initiating this, which we started accepting applications right before the pandemic happened, is that the majority of the applicants that we have been able to support have experienced hardships because of the pandemic, whether that be underemployment, whether that be illnesses for which they maybe did not have medical insurance or the resources to pay for medical costs, whether that be insecure housing, and this stipend helped them stay in a safe and secure home, whether it be car issues, whether it be discrimination from others. We still support a number of emerging adults who are financially cut off by their families, and without some financial support would be potentially homeless, unable to complete education if they are enrolled in school, be able to provide their basic needs. So in our current fiscal year, which just started in March, we have already supported 60 individuals. Our funding is primarily through private donors, as well as we have had tremendous support from our local businesses in the San Marcos area. So we are coming to this board because as our mission expanded to serve residents of the greater San Marcos area, we felt like this was an appropriate resource for us to request support and funding for. Let's see, what else do I want to share? We know that the need is high. We've been very lucky. Our entire executive board is solely driven by volunteer hours. We do not have any paid positions, and we have been able to secure support from social work students at Texas State to help us network and get the word out about the scholarship. In the spring, we had a student who helped us with this role. We got the word out to other nonprofits in the area. We got the word out to apartment complexes where we know, students and emerging adults are mostly living in our community. I would say that our public library and the food bank have been our primary sources of students saying, yes, that's how they heard about us. And so we just want to make sure, especially as this pandemic continues and we know our population is increasingly vulnerable, that we are able to continue to support our recipients and would appreciate any consideration for our application from this board. I also did not set a timer, so I don't know where my time is at. I apologize.
That is time.
We have a timer, and that was perfect. So Diego
Okay.
Perez, you may see his name on the screen. He's our timer, so he'll keep us all on track.
I
And,
appreciate that.
Yeah. So now the 5-minute question and answer session can start.
I have
You
a
said in your
question.
application,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. I'll wait. Okay, you said in your application that, and find a spot. This is especially needed for states that do not offer non-discrimination protection. Would you say that San Marcos would be a part of that we don't offer non-discrimination protection? And what do you base that off of?
So actually the only laws that apply to the state of Texas, from my understanding, are if cities choose to create their own laws that talk specifically about non-discrimination in employment and in housing, or if they're receiving federal funding and so have to follow federal guidelines. But the state of Texas itself does not offer protection around sexual and gender identity unless the city chooses to create those laws and those non-discrimination policies themselves. At this time, San Marcos does not, and we did as much research as we could, but there are no city ordinances that protect citizens from being discriminated against based on their sexual or gender identities.
Okay, I have another question. Do the recipients get $200 each? Is it up to $200? Is it case by case basis? Could it be more than $200 or?
So it is case by case basis. So our program director speaks with each of the applicants to understand their circumstances. We have had applicants say like, hey, I need $150 or I need $100. They also then know that they could come back at a later point in time if they faced another unforeseen circumstance. But at this time, given the funding that we have to cap it at $200 per applicant, and that's during their lifetime. So once they've been awarded that $200, unfortunately, if they experience another unforeseen circumstance, we cannot award them additional money. Our program director is very well connected to the resources in the greater San Marcos area, and also does provide them with information about other resources that they may be able to benefit from in addition to our award, or in lieu of it if they're not qualified.
Okay, and all they have to do is identify as, like, I mean, you can't really prove that, right? So like
Correct.
they just say,
Yep.
and what is it on basis of, like, do they have to be getting discriminated against on the basis of that to qualify for funding, or they just have to identify as one of those, say I'm having a hard time and I need some money?
Correct. So, and
Okay.
it's a little bit more than saying I'm having a hard time. They have to be able to explain what the circumstances are that were unforeseen that has jeopardized their financial security at that point in time. So we are asking them to provide details about that. But you're absolutely correct. We're not asking somebody to prove their identities. We have had people apply and identify as straight. So people, you know, we're going off of them being honest, and we will let them know that they are not qualified for this award.
And is the funding given directly to the person, or is it given to, if it's for utilities, we're gonna pay the electric company, or?
So we are going to trust that these are emerging adults who are learning how to adult, and the money is going directly to them. In today's technology era, we're able to transfer those funds to them either through Venmo or PayPal, because again, they're expressing that this is an emergent situation, and that they're needing to cover their bills or buy food or get to work. And so we want to make sure that they have the ability to access those funds as quickly as possible. Our process typically takes about 2 days, and we share that on the application. So.
And how do you measure your successes, the outcomes? How are you going to measure your success, the success of this program?
So that's a good question. We do send a survey to each of the, oh, sorry. Do you want me to finish?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You have 30
send
seconds.
Okay, we do send a survey to each of the recipients in order to get a sense of how the process went and how they felt supported. And 80% of those who have responded have said that it has just been 100% supportive. The feedback that we have gotten about why it was not always completely supportive is that $200 can only go so far.
Okay, and there's our 5-minute limit. And I'm sorry, we should have announced. So what you're going to hear is Diego saying 30 seconds. And that's just your warning to sort of, you know, you've got another 30 seconds to wrap it up. So, Mary, do you want me to go ahead and announce the next speaker?
I'm sorry. Sure, I got it. Got it for you. All right, so our next speaker is Hays County Child Protective Service. The program is Child Protection Board, Protective Board.
Go. My name is Karen Brown, and you already know Mary's name because it's on the screen. And we're both members of the Hays County Child Protective Board. And we're the ones who sent the application, the Hays County Child Protective Services Board. We're an all-volunteer board, and we're not going to cover material that was in the application. Instead, we're going to focus on the increase in number of clients that we serve, how funds will be allocated in the next fiscal year to serve these clients, the sources of and the need for increased funding for these children, abused and neglected children. And we're going to share some case examples to try to illustrate for you what kinds of issues that these families face, children and families face. We are eager to leave enough time to answer any questions that you may have of us about our services. And Mary is going to speak first.
The number of children we serve increases each year. The identification and location of the children is protected information. However, based on census data, approximately 1/3 of the children served countywide are San Marcos children. From 2010 to 2020, there was a 36% increase in the number of children in Hays County. During that same time period, the number of confirmed victims of child abuse rose 96%. How we allocate funds. The board meets and once a month, and we evaluate and prioritize caseworkers' requests for families and children who are CPS clients. The vast majority of our funding is spent on emergency clothing, back to school clothing, emergency food and shelter, and health and safety products. And under health and safety products, we supply things like car seats, cribs, pack and plays, fire extinguishers, various hygiene products.
We also provide some training for child protective staff, and we raise awareness about child abuse through presentations, our newly created website, and news releases. Our sources of and need for increased funding are these. First, the sources. The board has no stable, predictable annual funding. The county is our primary funding source. Last fiscal year's 40% of our total budget was allocated by the county. It's funds for which we have to apply and for which we are accountable. 60% of our funding was raised by our board in various ways. The reason we need additional funding is that as a result of numerous factors, such as the rise in drug addictions, domestic violence, and the growing use of relative care placements, the economic and emotional effects of COVID. This is one of the case examples. This is a relative care placement example. In August, a 4-month-old boy and his 2-year-old sister were removed from their home. They were referred because concerned neighbors and family members suspected severe neglect and abuse. The little girl was hungry, frightened of everyone, dirty, and the infant exhibited failure to thrive. Investigation revealed both parents were addicted to meth, and tragically, so were both of the little children. They were placed with their grandmother, who is widowed. She needed basic essentials, temporary financial assistance for our daycare, and we supplied those. She needed home and safety equipment. And there is another case example Mary will share.
Yeah, 2 families were referred to us in the same month for assistance with food. Both fathers in the families had lost their jobs due to COVID, and there is a lag time for applying for food stamps. And the board was able to provide assistance with food for both families.
And it's time. And I wanted to throw out just a little housekeeping item as well. We didn't think to announce that, just so you know, the 5-minute presentation and then the 5-minute Q&A time period is the only time during which the board members will be interacting with the applicants. And so you are welcome to either stay in the meeting or go after your time period. So I just wanted to let you know that you're welcome to listen to the discussion afterwards and so forth. It's all a public meeting, but you're also welcome to leave. So with that, sorry, I will turn it back over to the 5-minute question and answer period.
Did you say since COVID, you've had an increase in abuse, or has that decreased?
It is increased because of stresses on families. There's an increase in domestic violence. There's an increase in drug addiction. and family violence, which includes violence toward children. So, yes.
Okay, I don't want to lose my 5 minutes. If no one else has a question, I just want to reiterate that these abused children are truly innocent victims, and they are the most vulnerable citizens in San Marcos.
And I want to add that we are mandated to serve this population, and we're the only agency mandated to fill in the gaps for what the state does not cover to help these children. And they would not be providing any of the things that we mentioned in our case examples. We had to do that. And we're happy to.
How many open cases do you have right now? Do you know?
Go ahead. I don't know what she means.
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Okay, so you said that all of these kids they're our most vulnerable and you're providing services, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how many children are you providing services for at this?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, there's there's many areas of services, but for example, in substitute care, there are approximately 575 children in substitute care currently. And there are approximately, we anticipate next year to be serving at least 186 families, close to 200 families, and 400, almost 500 children in family preservation services. And the case examples we gave you, one of them was one was a relative care example. The other was a family preservation example. So quite a few children and families, children and families are cases. I just didn't understand what you meant by open cases.
That's okay. Thank you for the information.
And San Marcos residents, here I see 168 children in substitute care right now. There's residents of San Marcos.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to clarify that we have to extrapolate that number because a lot of these cases, you know, they're still tied up in the courts and all that. So the exact location of the children is protected. It's protected from our board. We don't know. So we have to just use the extrapolate from the percent that San Marcos represents of the county and assume that that is.
So for example, we know how many children in the county are served, and then we have to extrapolate, like Mary said, what percentage of those children would be from San Marcos. But it's been over the years approximately 1/3 of the total number that we serve in the county. And that's not just through substitute care, but it's also through family preservation, where they're trying to keep the families intact so that children aren't removed from their families, like the example that Mary gave.
Very good, thank you.
And back to the COVID question, a lot of the families have lost jobs this year because they have had COVID, that someone in the family has had COVID. They're not really abusive families. They're families that have been referred because they can't take care of the children adequately. No more questions?
No, you're giving us some great information.
Okay, and there's a lot more in the application also, but we're all volunteers. None of us are paid anything. We have no staff. We're all volunteers.
That is time.
Okay, so that was time. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us.
Mary, do you want me to go ahead? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I got you. Our next presenter is Nosotros La Gente, Viva Zapatos. That is the shoe drive.
Yeah, I want to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of our organization. We celebrate our 25th anniversary this year, and we do a number of other assistance programs from funeral to medical. But for this evening, our focus is on our shoe drive, which we've done successfully every year. And of course, with COVID, it's been a challenging for everybody. You know, number one, we normally do an annual turkey dinner to do the bulk of our fundraising. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that last year, and we won't be doing that probably this year either. And then we also have, normally we have the kids there at Walmart, which is where we purchase the shoes, come and pick out their own shoes. But this year we've had some mini shoe drives to distribute the shoes, where the parent liaisons who know the kids, you know, better than anybody, go out there and pick the shoes. They know the shoe sizes, and so they work with Walmart to have the shoe in stock, and then we pay for them when they check out. And then of course we have no paid staff for our organization. It's all volunteer work, and you know, as of the last reporting that we gave to the city, we gave out over 1,000 pair of shoes, which is kind of our average is about 1,200 pair of shoes each year. And so, you know, we're pretty much on target to meet our annual goal. Of course, we want to do more shoes because there's still that big need, you know, for the school district. And but yeah, that's basically. And then of course we're looking at other fundraising opportunities, whether grants from not just the city but from corporate America, and just other community fundraisers that we can do in local restaurants, something that you know, that we could sustain and get by with due to the COVID restrictions. And then of course we've lost some key members of our organization who would actually help with the cooking, so you know, we're dealing with that too. So but that's pretty much all I have on.
You said you're giving out 1,000 pair of shoes?
Yes.
But is your average 400? So is
No,
this
our
increase
average
in
is
shoes,
about,
or?
yeah, our average is about 1,200. But you know, we have normally when we do the big shoe drives there at Walmart, I mean, we have to turn people away and have them come back later in the day. But because the parent liaisons are the ones that are identifying and then going there to pick up the shoes, so we're kind of limited. But you know, we hope to hopefully expand that. You know, we're working with another date here in the next couple of months to add more totals to our current total that we have.
So it sounds like. Who was that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Could you explain a little bit more? Like, I think I read that the counselors can recommend that they get the shoes, but like how, I'm from San Marcos, I've never heard of this in my life. I think this is great, but it's like, can the kids just come and ask for new shoes, or how do they get a hold of this services?
Yeah, if they reach out to their parent liaison there, because each campus has a parent liaison. And so if they reach out to the parent liaison, there's like a permission slip that the child takes home to their parent and gets them okays that they can participate in the program. And then we work out a date to go out to Walmart, either on a designated day, or we can make special arrangements where we'll meet them there at the store, and then we'll pay for the shoes.
And it's one parent liaison per campus, and we're talking about elementaries, junior highs, or what campuses?
Yeah. I think each campus has at least one parent liaison. And because I know when we did the distribution back in, I think it was in February, because of the freeze that we had to kind of delay it. But so we do the distribution usually on a Thursday. So the parent liaison will meet us there at Walmart, and then they'll pick out the shoes because they know the size for each child that they've identified. And then they'll go pick out the shoes there at Walmart. Like I said, we pay for them. and then they take them back to the school, and then the next day or that day, they'll give them to the kids. But the key thing is to let the parent liaison know. I mean, they should know, but because of all the number of kids that they're dealing with, they may not be aware. Because we have instances where from one campus, the child gets, selected for this program, but at another campus, they don't. And so there needs to be that coordinated effort of, if a child's already participating in one campus, they should also be involved in another campus where their sibling is at.
Okay, one more question. The parent liaison, it's not a member of the school, right? Like it's not an employee of the school. Is it just a parent?
No,
They're a kid that goes.
No, they're an employee of the school district.
Okay, and they're counselors, teachers, they could be anything.
They could be anything. Yeah, and the other thing, so let the teachers know too, so they can speak to the parent liaisons. Because
Okay, and the teachers will be aware of who that is.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's part of communities and schools, and each campus should have a parent liaison designated. They work with the counselors and the teachers, identify children that are in need, and let the parent liaisons or the CIS know at each campus. But it is, I'm sure, overwhelming.
And I think we kind of noticed too this year is the fact that normally the parent liaisons, I mean, they'll identify the kids, and then the kids will come with their parents to Walmart and they'll pick out the shoes. Well, the parent liaisons have never really seen the whole process from picking the kids to actually picking out the shoes. So they kind of got a eye-opening experience this year because of COVID, where they actually got involved in the whole process.
Joe answered my question. Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Forgive me if I missed it, but is it one pair of shoes per child?
Yes, that's correct.
And I saw that you said it was something to help with the winter months. So is that to say it's mainly boots or tennis shoes? Would they be able to pick?
Yeah, they can pick whatever type of shoe that they want. And that's kind of the disadvantage of doing these little mini shoe drives, because the kids aren't there with us. But I'm sure that the parent liaisons are speaking to the kids, knowing what kind of pair of shoes they want. But more likely they're tennis shoes. But in the past, they've been able to get boots or tennis shoes or sandals, whatever their preference is. So hopefully, once COVID kind of is over, then we can kind of, go back to that route.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm not sure that y'all heard Diego say that's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our next presenter is Family Justice Center, and the program is the Therapeutic Educational Library.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to review the application and listen to me speak this evening. My name is Cynthia Fowler. I am the board president for Friends of the Family Justice Center, which is the supportive board for the Hays County Family Justice Center. And I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. And I can speak out of firsthand experience that it is very difficult for survivors of domestic violence to be able to tell their stories. And it's even more difficult for them to come forward and ask for help. But I am asking for help on behalf of every survivor and our board for funding for the Therapeutic Educational Library, or as we are calling it, TEL, T-E-L. And just a few things, according to the Texas Council of Family Violence, 40% of women and almost 35% of men have experienced some form of domestic violence, stalking, intimate partner violence, and or sexual violence in their lifetime. And that is in the state of Texas alone. According to some other statistics, in 2019, 185 Texans were killed by their intimate partner, 151 women, 33 men. And sadly, 88% of all femicides that happen in the state of Texas end up in a murder-suicide situation, of which 63% firearm is involved. I know you've probably heard a lot of statistics, and we are all very, very familiar with the cycle of family violence. And I'm sure you've heard these stories many times before, especially in the types of work that you all have overseen, pursued, and funded. And we're frustrated by the cycle of violence because it's a threat to not only our public health, but to our law enforcement officers that have to go out and respond to these calls. And we are all too familiar in San Marcos that sometimes responding to a domestic violence call can be deadly for our law enforcement officers as well. So our vision at the Family Justice Center is to provide, one location where people can get all forms of services, from an order protection to housing, job assistance. We partner with 22 different agencies, and our real vision is to try to break the cycle of family violence. And TELL is a simple yet very powerful program that is meant to provide educational material, spiritual material, emotional and therapeutic material to help survivors of all ages, all languages, all backgrounds, be able to access such things in an environment where, unlike the public library, it is a space where their batterer or abuser will never be allowed inside. And all of the materials are specifically curated to assist with the therapy and emotional help and healing that many of the survivors of family violence need to get over things like PTSD disorder, and help move on and become productive members of our society. And the specific subject matter within the library will entail information on how to leave toxic relationships, finding your voice, overcoming trauma, healthy parenting, walking away from codependency, and the healthy emotional tools needed for dealing with stress. And several of the over 125 Family Justice Center agencies in the country have tried these programs. They've had success in Montgomery County, Maryland, in San Diego, California, even as far away as Belfast, Northern Ireland. The TELL Library is not a substitution for the counseling and therapy that we offer, but it is a way to coordinate and enhance the health that they are getting. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a survivor, and my story is now 22 years old, and things are very different now. Attitudes, resources, even the laws are different now. And our society has come a long way, and psychology has advanced leaps and bounds. And that is why I'm passionate to tell you about the TELL Library, and hope that you will give us our support. I'm proud to say that we have full support from our board of directors and community leaders. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for sharing with us, Cindy. And I assume that these, the materials will be available there at the Family Justice Center or wherever you're doing intake, or people can come and find resources.
Yes.
Okay.
You were talking about your healthy parenting, overcoming trauma, co-parenting, and also dealing with stress. Do you have classes that address these issues, or is this one-on-one?
This is something that we do want to start. The Family Justice Center did not open until 2019. And then we had to close through a good portion of 2020. But we are wrapping this program in with what we are calling our client safe network terminal program, where they can come in and use our computers to apply for jobs, look for housing, resources, things of that nature. We hope in the future to provide classes, but at the time, this will be in one area where there will always be a staff member or a volunteer to help them facilitate their way through the material. And we will often take recommendations from whatever therapist or counselor that the survivor is working with.
Can I ask, with COVID, I read that a lot of your appointments have been remote.
Yes.
If COVID continues and increases, would it limit the access for your clients to be able to use the library since it is actually there and present?
Well, we have decided to reopen full time. We did just last month, and our doors are open, but we are following all safety protocol, proper use of personal protection equipment, masks, sanitizer, limiting the amount of people who can be in the center at a certain period of time. But at this time, our client safety network terminal program is open to the public, and we are open not just by appointment only now, but our doors are open all the time, 8 to 5, 5 days a week. So. Anything else?
How many staff maintain the program, or do you have designated staff?
Currently, we have 2 paid staff members, a program director and a domestic violence high-risk coordinator. And we have 4 regular volunteers and 10 volunteer board members, not counting myself. Counting myself would be 11. And we did work last year with Texas State University's social work program and had an intern come in and help us with some of our materials and do a board assessment. And that's a partnership that worked out really well, and we hope to continue that this year. So. This is part where I smile and wait. There's so many possible things I could say about our program. I will share a good story of just recently, we were able to find permanent housing for a victim who had been stabbed multiple times. And she was able to get her job back that she had lost due to her violent relationship. And we were able to supply her with furniture, dishes, counseling, transportation, you name it. And one of the most beautiful things was the detective that had worked her case helped to move her in on moving day just a couple weeks ago. And she didn't know he was going to be there and cried when she saw him. And it was just, it makes you remember why you do what you do. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. And I thank you again for your time.
Status time.
Okay, our last presenter, last but not least. Minorities for Equality and Economy, Education, Liberty and Justice Program, Iron Sharpens Iron.
Good evening. I always said, the last is supposed to be, you save the best for last, but it has been so many good presentations and I've really enjoyed listening. My name is Latrice Cook. I'm the executive director and founder for MELG Center. That's our, Ms. Earls read our long acronym, but we have shortened that to be MELG Center. And I first would like to thank you all for this opportunity in that our application spoke to your eyes to at least give us this opportunity to present to you this organization and the work that we do. And thank you all for the work that you've done and are doing in the community and actually being a part of this meeting and stuff tonight. So I want to make one real quick apology, and that is I left all my documents in my office. And that is the one thing about doing stuff remote, and you just kind of tote things back and forth. And sometimes in your madness, things get away. So I'm just gonna kind of go off the cuff. I don't have all of my application here. So if you have questions, of course, I'll answer to the best of my ability. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has been in existence for 17 years. I'd like to say that I founded Melge, and I was a little bit before my time. And I'd say that because we work with people who have previously been incarcerated in their family. Our entire organization, our entire program is based for people that have gone to prison, not in and out of jail, but people that have gone to prison and their families. We provide a myriad of services to this particular population to try to help them successfully reacclimate back into the community and have less barriers. We have a history of working with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice and the Parole Board in making sure that if people have new infractions with law enforcement, that we are able to help them, that they do not recidivate back into prison, maybe make some kind of concessions and talking with their parole officers or whatever their situation is to try to keep them from going back into prison, especially for something that's a minor infraction. The reason why we even made this application is because, of course, during the pandemic, we were one of our funders was St. David's Foundation, and so they gave us a little bit of we had a little bit of surplus money that we could use in outerline counties because they have a presence in Bastrop, in Caldwell, a couple of the other counties. And our organization was initially founded in Bastrop County before we began to work in Travis County and some of the outerline areas. But we found out we had so many requests from this area for assistance, whether it was that they needed assistance with housing or the people had lost their job, which many people I spoke to tonight. The pandemic really wreaked havoc on this particular population in Melge. Because there are people that are aware of who we are and some of the work that we do. People that are previously incarcerated are hesitant many times to seek assistance because they have fear of going into a place that normally provides assistance. They're hesitant because of what they've experienced having been incarcerated in actually walking into buildings and asking for assistance. So when you have an entity in your city or county or whatever that is specifically focused on their need, on this need, it limits their hesitancy to seek assistance of any sort, whether it's for drug abuse or whatnot. So what we found was during this time, with people that were aware of who we were sending people from the area, and we were giving financial assistance to many people in the area. We actually referred and actually put someone in residential substance abuse treatment. And so just a real quick wrap is that in every community, there needs to be an entity that focuses specifically on this particular population. The exclusion that they receive is tremendous still to this day in 2021. And we recognize that there's an overrepresentation of Black and Brown that have been put into the criminal justice system and specifically prison. And so I talk too much. I'm a radio talk show host. I can't help it. So, sorry, I ran out of time. But anyway, we just think that it would be a wonderful opportunity to actually come into the area and try to assist this population and the other organizations that are trying to work to help strengthen the community and enhance public safety.
You also have a radio show.
I do.
It's on FM radio, but what station?
It's on 88.7 KZI. It's called Iron Sharpens Iron, actually.
Okay.
So we've been on for about 8 or 9 years. As a matter of fact, while I was toggling back and forth. It's because we're in a meeting tonight, so that was kind of toggling back and forth.
KZI, is that with Steve Savage?
It is. Well, he's
Okay.
he's no longer the general manager anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thanks
how
for
well is this
listening.
program? How well is this program working where you are?
Well,
I know you want to
would-
bring this to San Marcos, and you also said in your application that the local sheriff department had solicited your assistance as well for San Marcos Sheriff Department. So
Right.
how well is this program working in Austin?
I think that overall we have done well. We have a 17-year history, and I think our services in our success in assisting persons is why we've been able to stand. And I think we've done well. Austin is coming from Bastrop into Austin. We still carry people from Bastrop. And still service Bastrop County and the city of Bastrop still to this day. Austin's a little bit different because there's so many people that have this ill. And so it's been a little bit more trying, and especially when the pandemic happened, because, one thing about this type of organization and this type of business is there's not a one size fits all. And the drug game is so treacherous right now. You're not in the contraband from prison has increased so much that now they're not only returning felons to our community, but they're also junkies. So, it makes the work a lot more, it makes it work a lot more tough, because, you have to have places to refer people to for substance abuse to get them stabilized before you can do the other work with them to get them reacclimated back into their community. That makes sense to you.
This is for people who came out of prison only, not in and out of jail?
Well, we will work. I mean, our focus has been primarily prison. There are people
We
that
don't
can
have
go.
any prisons around here. I mean, San
No.
Marcos doesn't have prisons.
No. Neither. It's not about prisons. It's people that are returning home from prison.
Mhm.
So they may be residents. They may have gotten their charge in Hayes County, got sentenced in Hayes County, and got 5 or 10 years, and their families are still here and everything, and they return back to the community. So it's not about where the prison is located. It's about where the body that went to prison comes
Okay.
back to. I hope San Marcos doesn't have a prison, and they never have one.
We didn't know about it.
Never.
Knowing what you know about San Marcos and the research you've done on Hayes County, what do you think our numbers are going to look like right away?
This is a unique area when it comes to people being sent to prison and incarceration, and how that may turn around. I'm not real sure how quickly we will be able to reduce the amount of people that go back or that even are touched. It's real hard to gauge that, because I don't have the current statistics about, the total people that are paroled or that are flat discharges, because some numbers are not available, because there are people that, you have parole numbers, but there are people that have been to prison that don't owe any time. And so those are people that you don't capture in your numbers. But what I would always say is that we make 100% difference, because our work, when we get that one person, we'll make 100% difference if they're ready for change.
Considering this would be a new program to the area and the amount of funding that you're asking for, what would be your plan for funding going forward in the future?
Well, not really knowing all of the resources and stuff that are available in San Marcos or in Hayes County, period. I think that going forward, once we would establish here, we would look for direct funding to support the area, this particular county and the city, from other funders. Maybe some of our funders will be able to get expansion money for this county and for the city. I'm really excited about just the opportunity of actually having dedicated space here.
Oh, okay, sorry, in the background, we're talking to each other. That was time. So I didn't hear, I didn't know if he said 30 seconds or time. So thank you so much. And then it looks like that concludes our time.
Thank you all again for having me.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to hold the discussion among the board members on the programs, agencies and their applications for the purpose of clarification, comparison, evaluation, and assessment. This discussion is public, however, it is only among board members. This time is meant to be a free flow of conversation. But please make your comments succinct to allow time for all board members to share if they wish. And the discussion will be facilitated by Carol Griffith, Housing and Community Development Manager. Carol, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. And it seems like y'all are getting so much more comfortable with each other and so forth. I may just mostly sit back. And so it is 8:10. We can discuss until 8:25. And I would just open the floor for any questions first. Does anyone have any questions? Megan?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I up until very, very recently served on the BPSF Board of Directors. And so I'm actually going to recuse myself during the discussion that covers BPSF. So if I'm understanding Carol, I'll just take my camera off and then I'll be here and y'all just let me know whenever you're done and I'll pop back in and be available for the rest of the discussion.
That's the correct protocol. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? And then also
question.
just,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are your initial thoughts and so forth? So please just feel free to discuss. Yeah.
Come here.
Oh,
Okay.
let me mute. Hang on one second. Okay, I think we got her muter. Okay, sorry.
I think they all presented very well. They had a lot of information. For Iron Sharpens Iron, I know that they are located in Austin. I like what she said, that a lot of people that have been in the prison system, when they run into problems, it's hard for them to go to someone who might not relate to what they've gone through or look at them as a felon or whatever crime that they've committed. And I like that she said that they could be that liaison or that person that go between person for that particular community, because even though we don't have a prison here in San Marcos, we do have felons or people who have been in and out of not only jail, but in and out of prison here in San Marcos. So we do have that community here. So I like the idea of the program because we don't have that type of program here. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I wish that it was local instead of them coming from Austin. I wish that they had like a local place here. I guess we didn't ask her, since they're in Austin, how would they get in touch with them, or are they going to move a satellite, organization to San Marcos so that they could be more hands-on. So I guess we can maybe ask that later, or Carol, maybe you can ask that for us, how the people going to get in touch with them, or how they're going to run their organization from Austin? I know we've had some organizations from Austin come into our school system and they ran very well. But for this type of organization, since it's dealing with a whole community, I feel that they would need to be more hands-on.
I can email that to her as a clarification question. And then I'll send the results to everyone at once.
I would like to know if the funds are going to be used for people in Austin and Bastrop besides San Marcos and Hayes County.
Okay, I'll add that as a
Hayes County. I heard her say Hayes County because she mentioned that our police, Sheriff Cutler, had reached out to her for possibly, I guess, helping with some of our inmates after they're released. And yes, I would think that she would, or the program would be more hands-on if it was here in Hayes County or in San Marcos. And yeah, I guess we need to get some clarity. But I was hearing her say Hayes County.
I heard her say the same thing about the sheriff. That's why I had asked about prison or jail, because Sheriff Cutler is the sheriff of a jail. So are those people coming out of Hayes County Jail going to be eligible for these services? Because they're not people coming out of prison unless they're waiting at Hayes County for their prison time down the line years later. Then they come back to Hayes County. That's when they help them, is what I'm guessing.
I think we need to get some more clarity, but as far as, it could be people who lived in, who were in prison. This is what I heard. People who were in prison who were coming back to Hayes County and would be referred to her program for resources and, jobs. It is a very vital program. We need it here in Hayes County because we do have people who are sent back from prison back into our community and they're lost. It's very difficult to get housing, jobs, everything. It's a challenge. And I'm hearing that the sheriff sees something there because I think that they're looking for other resources, tools to help these people stay out of prison, prevent them from going back. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. So maybe we need to ask some more questions of Ms. Cook.
That's what I heard too.
I think it is a wonderful opportunity for San Marcos. I hope that it happens because we need it. We have people walking around right now, homeless, and that leads to something else, or they end up back in prison or in jail or whatever. I think it's a worthwhile program that we need.
I agree. I do agree that it is a worthwhile program that is needed. I'm not sure that the city of San Marcos, for the funding that they're asking for and what they're asking for that funding to go towards, is the best use of the resources that we have at the moment. And I think there are other resources out there, maybe from the county, that could help with this, but I would like more clarification and, to take a look at maybe if this could be pared down. I don't know. It's a lot of funding for a brand new program, although it is greatly needed in the community. I get that too. But that's just my perspective at the moment.
Just looking at the budget that they submitted, it looks like a lot of startup costs. It looks like they're looking to have an office here because they've budgeted for furniture and copier lease and just things that you'd need when you're getting an office started. So it sounded to me like they were looking to be on the ground here.
On the ground.
And I understand that part of it though, but sounds like they've been in the business. So they're going to be able to bring the resources with them and get started. That's how I see that. And you have to get started somewhere. And so that program has been productive. I know about that program and we desperately need it here. I'm not trying to overtalk this, but it's an established program. They already have the structure, the program, let me find a place, I think, and let's get started, is what I see.
Sounds like, it sounds like that too. Just let me find a place and get started.
Yeah, get started.
So, okay.
And when I heard the
And I
sheriff,
agree with you too, Eleanor, that we probably, it is a needed organization here. We would have to come down on that 120 that they're asking for. So we won't pay for so much startup and pay for just what they're doing. And I think Carol needs some clarity on that as well. As far as the 120, what Megan was saying, a lot of that startup, but can they dwindle that down to what they need or what they feel they're going to need just to get started, and they get here the best way they can?
Okay, I can ask.
Yeah, I would
think
like
that would be
to,
fine to ask.
I would like to know
Yeah.
about other funding that they're looking for, or, you know, like other opportunities for funding. Because I don't see any other funding in Hayes County or San Marcos in here, or any funding listed for the program right now.
I look for that too, Eleanor. I didn't see that either.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and one
and it's a new program though. Keep in mind, it's a brand new program.
and one thing that I'll just contribute from, I don't know, some experience in expanding a brand new program is that it can be challenging to do what you plan to do if you don't have the full amount. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I think the question that Eleanor asked about sustainability is a really valuable one. Because I just wonder, if we weren't to fund them 120,000, what would they be able to do? So the questions about other funding is really, really valuable.
I know, that's why I asked Carol if she would ask if they would extract all of the startup stuff that's mentioned and just fine tune it to what they need in order to offer that service here.
Okay, and so what I'm writing down is, what would the impact be if funding was reduced? And can you give us an idea what your budget would look like at that
That's
point?
perfect, Carol. That's perfect.
Okay.
I was listening, looking at the Bobcat Pride. A lot of services, I can understand the need if they are being that discriminated against here in San Marcos. And I think I asked that, but it really wasn't answered. She said Texas laws, but a lot of the services that they're offering these students, we already have. They could easily, I'm just wondering, were they discriminated against when they tried to get food? Were they discriminated against when they tried to get health care? Just going, or is she just going by Texas laws, that we have no laws in place to protect them from discrimination? I don't know. I just had some questions about this, because even when I read the application, a lot of their needs are already met through the services that we already have.
And just, I mean, a lot of these applications, a lot of the programs, some of them, so many this time in this group are duplications. Of services. We have a lot of these services already in place, and I get it, everybody's doing their own individual things, but there are some in here that they're already in place, they're established. And it's always good to have more, but I'd like to see people working together to provide some of these services. And, you know, some people are asking for large dollars, you know, but how can we partner together, you know? And I'm hoping that we'll look at some of these that we do not have and get them in here, get them in San Marcos. We need to grow our resources. I think not duplicate them. San Marcos is growing. Yes, we do need to have more in some areas. But I'm just saying that because as I'm going through some of these, I just feel like people could partner together. You know, it's like, okay, for instance, in Illinois, I'm just gonna say this is a food bank. We've only got one food bank, you know, and we have to have the food bank. But some of these organizations, for some of the things that they're asking for, they could get it from the food bank. You know, I would You know what I'm saying? I would pour my last dollar into the food bank because it is a huge need. Hunger is, there are people out there that need food. And I'm not just saying that in front of you, Eleanor, but I love your lunch bag thing, okay? Because you're gonna be able to, you know, I'm serious, you're gonna go into areas that have been forgotten. But that iron sharpens iron, we need that program here. I mean, let's keep it
And
real.
she's also
The
said,
sheriff-
right.
The sheriff is saying that, then, you know, we know what's
She al-
going on with policing.
Yeah, she also said that they can get up to $200 for their needs. If she was to partner with St. Vincent de Paul, they can give more than $200. They can pay a whole light bill, or they can pay, you know, their rent, or moving expenses. I mean, there was just some things that she mentioned, like Mary was saying, services that we already have. If they would just partner with them, they might be able to do more for the students. I think asking us for money, I think it would limit them, because if they can only give $200 for each case by case, yet they can go to St. Vincent de Paul and they can maybe get $600 to pay a whole light bill. And I've seen them do that. Then I think they're really limiting themselves if they're not willing to go out and partner
now
with
8:25.
organizations that already have these resources intact.
Diego said it's 8:25.
It's already 8:25.
I'm sorry.
No,
Thank you, Diego.
Well, and it's,
All
you
right.
know, a great
Thank you,
discussion,
Diego.
and we are not required to stop. This is really your meeting, but that's just your notice that it's already 8:25. So if y'all want to continue, please do. And if not, we'll just, you know, Mary will take us on down the agenda. So.
I do think there are some other resources out there. I currently know, in case anybody needs or knows people that need, that there is still some utility assistance money available through Community Action right now. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, Joanne, for sure. Like working together, or just providing the resources or that connection with other community support that's already out there. Like the Family Justice Center, I think that providing the materials and the resources that they need to have in their facility, where people can go and feel safe and have access to that information right there, I think is a very good, worthwhile thing. They're only asking for 5,000. I mean, I can see that.
I agree with you. I can see that too. Especially since they're trying to turn the, like, overcoming trauma, co-parenting, and dealing with stress, they're trying to turn those into classes, I guess, because I teach.
Right.
I love that,
And
you know.
have access to the computers and be able to go in there and feel safe. You don't have to go to the public library. You don't have to go and expose yourself. So something like that, it's like, to me, that's something that I can really get behind. And the shoe project too. I mean, we've been doing that. How does anybody have anything to say about that program at this point?
I love the shoes. I wish that they had them when I was growing up.
Me too.
I'm on my kids. My kids. That would have helped me a lot being a single parent.
Yeah, sounds like they're being creative, and it sounds like they're giving shoes more than once a year now. And with people losing their jobs and things like that, I'm sure their numbers have gone up.
And since they wasn't able to do the turkey fundraiser, and they generate a lot of money for that, but for the past 2 years, they've not been able to do it, but they still giving out 1,000 shoes. So that lets us know that, you know, that they're creative and responsible with the resources that they're giving. So I'm all on board for that program as well. They're my favorite anyway.
I want to say all programs are really great. They all meet the certain needs that we need. On the shoes, I don't know if it was in the application. I don't recall. Did they mention if there was a cap on the cost of shoes that was allowed? Like if it's $30 per voucher per pair of shoes? Or
yeah, there is a cap. I just don't remember. Mary, wasn't it? And Eleanor, isn't it $25 or $15 or something like that? But it is a cap, and so if they find a shoe that's over, then they have to pay that overage. But there is
Okay.
a cap, yeah.
But
Yes,
most of
okay,
those shoes-
And then going to the Bobcat Pride, I do agree they are duplicating efforts. I would like to see them partner out with other organizations, or perhaps, like Eleanor said, maybe provide the resources when they go to them. They say, okay, we can help you, but here's additional resources. But I also want to bring to the point, that particular population that they are serving are victims of hate crime. So it is also coming from a perspective of a safe environment where people feel comfortable to seek resources, because they might have had a bad experience with another organization just based on their sexual orientation or sexual gender, their color of their skin, their religion. Unfortunately, all of that still occurs. And so I think where they're coming from with their heart is to provide a safe environment for these individuals to help give them the help that they need.
I agree with you, Monica, but there still might be a way that they can still provide that safety net and still be able to partner better with the resources that are here.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, so we are.
I have one question.
I knew it was coming.
I'm sorry. I just have one question, and this is really just kind of like process wise. I'm trying to determine if I think I need to go through every time we have presentations and kind of score everything. Carol, is that kind of what you encourage us to do? And then maybe go back and reevaluate our scores once we have maybe narrowed it down further? We haven't ever approached it in this way, and I'm just kind of wondering what everyone else is doing. What are you?
I can give you, yeah,
Waiting
I
till
can
the
give you a
last
little,
minute.
yeah. I can give you a little more information on what we're picturing. And then I do plan to send you at some point, like pretty quickly, a better idea of how those last two meetings will run, because I've got some ideas about how we can kind of go through rounds to first cut people or put some aside, like, okay, these are definitely in, and we can whittle the list down. But what we're hoping that you're doing, what I would recommend basically is looking at the week's group. So for example, I'll email you tomorrow, okay, here's the next 5 that are going to be presenting next week. And so spend that time this week on those 5, go ahead and score them and do the risk assessment and everything. But know that you can change your scores all the way up until when I collect them. And so that'll be after our final decision. And so anytime, when you're discussing things, so what I'm kind of hoping is you have in front of you sort of the scores and the notes that you've already taken and so forth. And then if somebody says something and you're like, oh, that's kind of a good point, I'm going to change that or whatever, you can just adjust it as we go and kind of make it memorable for yourself. Because this is it's a long process and y'all have a lot of applicants to go through. Then in the last 2 meetings, what I'll ask you to do right before the second to last meeting is, okay, y'all send me your scores as they stand now so that I can put them in an Excel spreadsheet and average them so we can see where we are and like, are there any outliers that we need to talk about and so forth, so that you can kind of get that picture as we go into the final discussion. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm working to approach it. And I've got lots of scribbles and markouts and anyway, so yes. And then that'll probably change once we get through all of the applicants also.
Right.
Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. So are there any updates from any of the board members on activities since our last meeting? Anybody want to request for discussions, any items for future meetings? They'll be put on the agenda. Nobody? Okay. So now we're at the question and answer session with our press and public. Do we have anybody out there, press or public? And our public that has any related questions to our agenda items?
Okay, we do have one. And so we have Kathy Morris, and I think we've allowed, yeah, there she is. Okay, so Kathy, if you're able to unmute yourself, you can go ahead with any questions about these agenda items.
I think I may be unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank each of you for your service. I would like to encourage you to create a matrix for scoring because you are receiving some 30 or 40 applicants and each has its strength. But I know that funds are limited, even though you have a good amount of funds this year. But I do know that needs are high. So I would encourage you to create a uniform matrix for scoring on all of the applicants you have. Additionally, I was quite interested in the prison release program. And I would encourage that applicant to get.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt. Really, this is such an odd item on the agenda, but it really is specifically so that people can ask questions.
Okay,
I'm so
let me
sorry.
ask a question. Let me ask a question. What kind of matrix have you created to score?
So you can find the matrix of the categories that the applications will be scored on and the risk assessment items online. And if you look, and I don't have the URL in front of me, but if you go to the city's website and type in Human Services Advisory Board or Human Services Grants, you'll be able to see the web page where everything's posted. You click on the application and you can see exactly what the board members are scoring the applications on. It was given to all of the applicants up front.
Okay, I'd appreciate seeing the matrix and I appreciate your telling me that. And I thank you for your work. I know it sometimes seems thankless, but it's really a very integral part of our community. And I thank each of you.
Oh, thank you. And then Mr. Castillo, I believe you are able to speak. And then I would also just advise you, you're here as, of course, a member of the public, not as an applicant at this point.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know that I had posted a chat in the chat because y'all were asking some questions about the vouchers. That was the only thing I was going to mention. But I too want to thank you for y'all's service, and I know it's a hard decision that y'all have to make every year. So, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. I muted myself. Okay, just checking. It looks like everyone's had a chance to ask questions, so we can move on.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Were you seconding that, Melina? Okay, so.
And just a little process note. Yeah, process note, you do need to speak it out so that it will be recorded. So FYI.
Go ahead, Melina.
I second.
Okay, Carol, there it is. All right, the meeting is adjourned at 8:45. Wait a minute. No, 8:38 p.m.